Since 2009, it has been our goal to support, promote, engage, and inspire the arts community by igniting the ghost light that shines on the stages of the up-and-coming, the unsung heroes, the brilliant writers, and the dynamic designers. Our podcast breaks the fourth wall to give you an inside look at the plays and the players. Stay tuned. Rep Radio is on the air. Welcome to Rep Radio.
Thank you.
I'm your host, Darnell Radford, and today I am here with an old friend, and I'm thinking about, I was just thinking about how long Rep Radio has been in operation, and I haven't had a chance to sit down with this gentleman. So this is a Rep Radio debut. It took 8 seasons to get him here, and I'm here with James Jackson.
Hello.
James, welcome to Rep Radio.
Thank you.
So in the past, you have been someone I've called on for your artistic talents to help me on the production side for a couple of shows, and we always see each other in passing, and I'm surprised to find that you are a part of a production that I'm experiencing in some other way, and I'll go, hey, oh, I didn't know you. Hey, okay, all right.
Yeah, being from the tech side doesn't really, you don't get as much publicity as actors and directors.
Yeah, that's why we had a podcast called Out of Sight, because all of the designers, while their work definitely stays with us, they're often not seen, but their work is always appreciated. But it's great to have you here in front of the microphone today, and today you're representing yourself as producer and director of this new production, the world premiere of One More River to Cross. Verbatim fugue. Mm-hmm. Is that a fugue?
Yes.
Adapted by Lynn Notage. And if you are in the theater community, you know who Lynn Notage is.
Yes. There's a lot of super big fans of hers. I've actually heard from a couple that are just coming because it's a Lynn Notage piece.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, so tell us a little bit about yourself first, since this is your Rep Radio debut.
Okay, what do I tell you? I am a theater artist, is best way I can put it. As all of us are, I'm, a freelancer and do many, many things, but I came up in theater through the technical side. Started in high school with our great program at Clearview Regional High School in South Jersey. They had one of the best theater programs I've ever seen in a high school, and learned lighting and set design there, and just have been doing lighting design, and then graduated on to technical direction. And now I've been producing and directing small pieces for about 5 years. Generally stuff, I was technical director of Walking Fish Theater while they were open. Mm-hmm. And while I was there, just got the opportunity to say to Stan, hey, I'd love to put on a piece for this weekend. What do you, what do you do? Do you don't have anything on the board? Do you mind if I bring people in? He's like, yeah, sure. Anytime the theater can get used is great.
Right.
So I don't know if that answers your question, but yeah, that's me in a nutshell. Like, I'm always looking for something to do.
Yeah. And so these. What inspires or motivates the artistic choices that you make?
I would say I generally think with my artistically with my photographic vision. I do a lot of photography. That's my primary freelance career, and in photography terms, I think of in terms of stories and moments. So I'm always trying to embed layers of story into every specific moment, so that you can see many things in any moment of a piece, or in photography it ends up being in any moment that you capture. So artistically, I tend to think through the story, think about the backstory and think about the future of the story, and try and embed all of that information into the moment that we're in.
Mm-hmm. So you think like an artist.
I try to, I guess.
Great. So tell us about One More River to Cross.
One More River to Cross, it's other than being a really beautiful spiritual that has many, many arrangements, everybody who's been to a Baptist church their entire life will have some specific arrangement of the song in their head. Other than that, it as a theater piece, it is the exploration of slavery as a character, the institution of slavery in America, really. The reason I was so excited about this piece that I decided to direct and produce the Philadelphia run is that there's been a lot of discussion in the African American community of the quote that always comes to mind for me is, do we need another piece about slavery? Do we need to see another narrative about slavery? And recent events go to prove to me that yes, we do. We need to keep a clear and present narrative of this history in mind at all times, because not for our community, but for the communities that we interact with. Mm-hmm. It's impossible to have empathy for somebody unless you know where they're coming from, why you might have empathy for them. And clearly, through maybe the last 10, 15 years, the idea of the hundreds of years of slavery being a reason for being empathetic to current African Americans has gone by the wayside. Mm-hmm. One thing that I like to also quote when I think about this piece is when I hear people say things like, slavery was so long ago. What does it mean to me now? Why should I care? I didn't have anything to do with slavery.
You weren't even born when slavery was around.
Right. Like, how could this possibly have anything to do with me? I'm not responsible for my great-grandparents. Well, there you go. It's your great-grandparents and your grandparents, really. I mean, it's not actually that long ago. We're literally, if you look at generationally, we're literally in the middle of the fourth generation since slavery, since emancipation. Since emancipation was declared, we're in the middle of the fourth generation, and that's not that long. That's so people that are young now, maybe like in their teens, are no more than great-grandparents removed from somebody who was enslaved.
Yeah.
And slavery didn't end at the Emancipation Proclamation. You know, there's systems and social structures that were put in place. Jim Crow is the most obvious example, but there's many things that happened and are still ongoing that that create a system very similar to or echoing of slavery even up till today.
Yeah. And you could argue that it's just been watered down.
Yeah. Watered down.
Watered down to
disguised,
segregation, discrimination, you know.
Well, I mean, like, even the idea of minimum wage, the minimum wage fight is ridiculous. I mean, the fight over a minimum wage is ridiculous. When the minimum wage was originally introduced, the idea was that the minimum wage would be enough for a single wage earner who was working 40 hours a week to have a house, take care of a child, take care of a spouse, and still be able to put away 20% of their income as savings.
Yeah.
That was the whole idea. And it got us out of the Great Depression. I mean, that mobilization of the lower and middle class and creating a more massive middle class by giving the average worker the ability to really become socially mobile was the biggest hit that the condition of slavery ever took. And now we have politicians and billionaires fighting over, should we give people another $5 an hour? You know, when the $7 an hour that is the minimum wage doesn't even cover housing in the most remote and rural areas that the minimum wage is in effect.
Yeah. When you mentioned the minimum wage and what it was supposed to be for us, it started. Of course, I was thinking about gentrification and how you know, the argument and the frustration revolves around, you know, if you're thinking, let's think about a raisin in the sun for a minute. You know, we finally have this opportunity to we have enough money to go buy a home. We can have a little piece that's ours,
right, and
hold on to that. And that sort of fuels the frustration of gentrification, because these families, we're sitting here in Point Breeze, a predominantly African American neighborhood, where these homes were, you know, passed down.
Yes. And
there are family members still trying to hold on to those homes.
Yeah.
But the redevelopment of this neighborhood is threatening that ability. And you know, because there really isn't a way for us to sustain that now that we have it, and they keep fighting against this minimum wage.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and it's interesting to go into gentrification that way, because so we're in Point Breeze, like what, 2 blocks away there was a fire last weekend that was driven by I think anti-fascists that were fighting against gentrification. I mean, I don't necessarily agree with their methods.
Yeah.
But I was participating in a discussion online, and everybody always, you know, like, is always like, why do you even read the comments? Here's why I read the comments.
Because we're gluttons for punishment.
Sure. No, here's why I read the comments. The comments, everybody says that, you know, like, people talk a big game online. Not only do they talk a big game online, but the sort of detached nature of online commenting allows people to reveal their true inner selves.
Yeah.
Things that they wouldn't even say to somebody that they were sitting across the table from. And so, to me, having read a lot of commentary recently from everyone from, Native American speakers on, the Dakota Access Pipeline and Native rights in general, through just the most low-income former industry worker in, like, Chicago, posting on a New York Times article. I read a lot of social commentary, and I seek it out. Like, it's something that I like to soak up, because I like to know where I am in society. I like to know what society not necessarily thinks of me, but thinks in general, because, as a producer and a director, I'm constantly trying to move with society, show them what they'd like to see, what they would be interested in.
Yeah.
So that ability for people to present themselves as they truly are is a fascinating modern convenience that we have. It is the true democratization of publishing. Every generation we get closer and closer to this point where everybody will be able to broadcast their own thoughts. And the comment sections are pretty close to that right now. Like, people just broadcast what they're thinking. So, like, looking at what people think about gentrification, and I was reading and commenting on this article about the fire down here, and I hate to say it this way, but I can't think of another way to say it. White people don't get it. And really it's just the general middle class person doesn't get what gentrification is, why anybody would be upset about it, why there are people willing to set a set of buildings that are unoccupied on fire to make a comment about gentrification. And
they're like, I don't understand why this bistro and this yoga studio is a threat to your neighborhood.
I don't and your social culture. And those are probably the same people that are like, so what McDonald's is in Abu Dhabi, like, I don't care. Bring them more McDonald's. Everybody, there's so many ways to keep branching off this topic. It's amazing. So everybody's really proud of their own culture, and
I think what it comes down to is that the voices who say they don't understand are the voices who are not paying attention, and ultimately we have to hear people's concerns and frustrations so that we can understand their position. And it's never really a thought that, oh, you're wrong. You don't know. You don't understand. It really is, I don't understand.
Right.
Help me understand.
Right.
I always point out that on a nice day, when I have the windows open in this neighborhood, people just claim stoops.
Yes.
Yes. I don't know in this house.
I'm just going to sit here.
But for the next 45 minutes, me and my friends are going to have a very loud, comfortable conversation because we feel safe in this neighborhood, in this moment, in this space, on this stoop that doesn't belong to us, but we're a part of the neighborhood. There's a part of me that was immediately frustrated by that, but I heard someone being argued with about their vocal tone, and the guy said you don't tell me to lower my voice. You just got here. Mm-hmm. And I feel like I've been saying this for years. He said, you just got here. I've been here for 20 years, 25 years, or however long he had been here. And when I heard his frustration, I was like, he's got a point.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like,
He's got a point.
I've lived in 2 neighborhoods now in Philadelphia that are being gentrified or being developed.
Yeah.
To put the nicer word on it. And I'm, in as much as I'm middle class, upwardly mobile, guy in his now late 30s. I am part of the problem as much as part of the solution. As part of I'm part of the culture that wants to exist here. Mm-hmm. I'm also part of the people that are investing money in the neighborhood by fixing up my own house, by supporting businesses that are local and move into the area. I don't want... So there's a coffee shop opening up 3 doors down from me. And everybody on my block is really excited about it. Mm-hmm. They're really happy that there is more in the way of personal services coming back into these neighborhoods, and I don't live that far away from here. Yeah. So they're really excited to have a little coffee shop, a little local spot where they can hang out, and I say they, but they include me. I'm really excited to have a spot where we can hang out, and
well, it's easier to say I'm 2 doors down from the coffee shop than it is to say I'm between the liquor store and the bodega.
Well, I really between the liquor store and the bodega.
And the thing is, if they are contributing, the bodega contributing to the neighborhood, I don't even know if they consider the terminology bodega to be offensive, but if they're contributing to the neighborhood, I want them to be here.
Right.
But if they're contributing to the crime and the fear in the neighborhood, then I do have a concern about that. And so I'm torn as well. And I feel like for me, I'm looking, I'm on an upper level in my building, and I'm looking down on it as if I'm sort of judging the change of the neighborhood. But at the same time, I see that some moderation needs to be considered as well. I don't think I don't think we're going to turn around and there's 6 yoga studios.
Right.
I just don't think the neighborhood can sustain 6 yoga studios.
There's one in a couple blocks away, right?
We can't sustain a Wawa. We're not going to sustain a yoga studio.
But there's a difference. The buildings that were set on fire were they're by OFC, yeah. And there's an OFC on the corner.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And Ari has made very public that he loves this neighborhood. He wants to see it do well. He took over Berg's, and Berg's up to that point was a dive and didn't have very many people who went to it all the time. Now it's, for lack of a better word, a gastropub or whatever you want to call it. It's a place with good beer and relatively inexpensive food. And, in talking with people that work there, they say he's aware that he's probably losing a little bit of money on it, and he doesn't care. Mm-hmm. He wants to do right by the neighborhood.
Yeah.
And that's in sharp contrast to the Ari that, makes public statements about, not caring that people don't want these huge blocks of very similar buildings that are all new construction and don't fit in the architecture of Philly to be built. I don't know where we go from there. We're in this weird moment. We're in the moment, and I don't know where the future is of it. I know that there will continue to be investments in urban dwelling because that is kind of the general future of society. We're in a phase where we're pulling people in from the burbs rather than sending them out to them.
Yeah.
And we're combining cultures in the city. And I find it amazing and fascinating. I love it personally, but at the same time, I've got a guy on my block. Just to provide an example, he's in his late 20s. He only goes around by his nickname. He doesn't use his real name. He's a very political guy. Like in his 40s, I can see him running for city council if he manages to stay out of jail and stay, popular in the neighborhood for the next 20 years. But he's not very well educated. He's not very well spoken. And he's a really nice guy. But the first year that I moved into my neighborhood, there were 2 shootings on my block. There was a stabbing on my block. And there were 5 shootings within 2 blocks of me. And I live a block off Broad. So it wasn't that way. It wasn't towards Broad where everybody is. It was the other direction.
Yeah.
And I wrote, I grew up in the burbs. I grew up, in all kinds of neighborhoods, but you can, in general, in the burbs, trust government to do what you're asking them to do. So I wrote to the police chief of our district, our city councilman, and carbon copied the neighborhood and the businesses on our corners. We have 4 corners on my block that have businesses on them. So, we're a pretty busy block, and all those people should be and probably are concerned with their own safety and making our block safe so that they get business, so that people can walk down the street safely to their own houses, etc. You would not believe the amount of anger that caused to be directed towards me from people on the block. And that's because here in Philly, I didn't think about the history of it. Before I wrote the letter, I didn't think about the history of it. In Philly, we have a police department who was responsible for literally bombing a block of residents. Mm-hmm. Literally bombing, literally declaring war and bombing people. There's aggressive police departments across the country, but none of the other ones have bombed anybody.
Yeah.
And I didn't think about the history of it. I didn't think about...
And that was more recent than slavery.
Right. I didn't think about...
We are still apprehensive because of that.
Yeah, I didn't think about the fact that my neighborhood might be a little... the long-term residents in my neighborhood might have a longer memory than I do, because I've only lived in Philly since 2001. So, I lived in the burbs and in South Jersey before that. I didn't think about the move bombing, and didn't impact me. Only recent Philadelphia Police Department impacted me, and recently Philadelphia Police Department has been doing pretty good. They have a lot of community outreach, and that bombing impacts that. The fact that they went through this low point impacts that. It drives them to try and be better now. Anyway, so the whole block had a bunch of animus towards me for 3 or 4 weeks, and it was coming to a head. So our block captain called a meeting of all the people who've lived on the block for a long time and me. So it was me in a room with about 20 older women who've lived in their houses since the 1930s, and just, just as a way to say, hey, you're new here. Why would you make these comments? Why would you say things that will bring more attention to our block. And my response was, well, our block does need the attention. We need the participation of city council. We need the participation of the businesses that are here to participate in the community, in the block, in our own livelihood, in our own welfare. So that, because if they're concerned about us, then we don't have to be so concerned about our own safety that's the only thing that can occupy our minds, and we can have the opportunity to expand and do other things.
Yeah. So talk about how all of that complements or adds to the conversations surrounding this collection that makes up one more river to cross.
So it's a very dense piece, and even now, I've been in rehearsals with it for over a month. I've been working with it for over a year. Every time I read it, every time I hear it in rehearsal, I hear and see something new. It's so multi-layered, and there's so much information that anything new that happens in society on a daily basis even has some sort of direct relationship to these narratives, because these narratives are not just a story about slavery. They are the epitome of the nugget that creates the African American social structure through the next period of time, all the way up till now. These interviews were done in the 1930s. And think about how recent that was. I mean, that every one of these interviews is a person who was a slave themselves somewhere in the South. And these interviews were conducted in the 30s, and they were still alive, had a real memory of slavery, and were able to communicate it to a writer. That's, everything that goes on, that's going on in society right now, be it, and I referenced this earlier, Native American rights, gay rights, just the freedom of speech, the fighting for freedom of speech, just African American community, discrimination in any form. All of these things are contained within this narrative. And it's a way for people to figure out why they might feel one way or another about some of these things. I had a friend contact me. I sent out invitations to my whole entire address book. I had a friend contact me. She's Italian. And she lives in, middle class South Jersey. And she's like, I really want to come to this, but would I be welcome? And it's like, that's not a thought that would have ever occurred to me.
Yeah.
But yeah, I get it. I get why you would ask that. But yeah, of course you're welcome. I want you to hear this story. I want people of any walk of life to hear this story, so that the story of slavery has so much effect on our culture in America that I don't think people even realize it until they hear it. You know, until they're in the moment and hearing a story from the slave era and make that connection with how it fits their life now.
Yeah. It is interesting to hear that because, you know, you and I are in this very supportive theater community, and to hear that as a question is almost, you know, laughable because we know our community. We're like, are you kidding? Please.
Yes.
Like, just send an email and tell somebody you can't afford a ticket, and you know, they will figure out a way to get you in there.
Right.
You know? But at the same time, I was thinking, if we're thinking about sort of these current these more modern questions similar to that, you know, Netflix just released a series version of Dear White People. And there is a question: who is this for? Who's supposed to be watching this? But
who
anybody,
is the intended audience?
Exactly, who is the intended audience? And you know, so there are white people who are offended by its title, but
which in itself is laughable in a way.
And all this hype. Okay, there was a movie, there was a book, and then there was talk of the series. There was so much that went on around this that would let you know, go see this. Like, go form an opinion after you've seen it, and then you would realize, oh, okay, all right. So this isn't an attack. This isn't an attack on white people, and even if it was, it's a movie,
right?
That is trying to tell a story from a very specific perspective.
Yeah,
it's not trying to say that you're wrong. It's just this character, the character that was written, who creates, you know, the segment, Dear White People. You know, it's her voice, and you know, but we realize so much out of exploring the world around her voice and her message in that too. So
and what's interesting about Dear White People, so you know, you were saying what's the intended audience, and I always think of
Netflix binge watchers,
right? Yeah, that's the intended audience. But I always think of, and whenever I'm making art, whatever kind of art I'm making, I always kind of rue the time when I have to give it to the audience, because I know, as an artist, I know like that the piece isn't done until the audience gets it, and until the audience places their development on it.
In it. Yeah.
And so that when the audience does their interpretation of it, that's when the art actually happens. And so, until, you know, like people going, oh, I'm not going to watch a show called Dear White People without watching, you know, like without at least watching the trailer for it and understanding what it's about, they're taking themselves out of the art, and they're taking their opportunity out of their opportunity to participate in the art away from themselves.
Yeah.
And so any artwork, hopefully any artwork, is intended for any audience. And I always get this, so I get several times in my producing career, people have, you know, one of the common questions is, well, is this appropriate for all ages? I lived in a very liberal household growing up. My mom thought, you know, nothing of having a photo book on the coffee table. You know, thought nothing of me seeing nude sculpture, you know, in the museum. Anything was appropriate in context. So I, you know, in my head I go, well, that's entirely up to you. You know, like, yeah, anything is appropriate in context, so everything is appropriate for all ages. I don't care if it's a burlesque show or, you know, or a Lynn Nottage piece about slavery. You know, if you bring a young audience to that piece and you provide some context for them, and they're going to develop their own interpretation of it, which is great in my mind. So knowing that, I always, in my head, I'm like, everything is appropriate for every audience. And so when people put limits on a piece and say, like, only 18 or over can see this, or this isn't appropriate for white people, or this isn't appropriate for people of color, I'm like, then you haven't done your job.
Yeah.
You haven't done your job as an artist. Like,
I mean, has anything been listed that way?
Well,
that would be interesting.
No, I don't know that anything. Well, yeah,
Not
I'm
ideal
sure
for an African American audience.
Yes, definitely. I think that reviewers have definitely said things like that, like, and then there's always the thing of quote unquote trigger warning.
Yeah.
Like, anything is triggering if you're on edge enough.
Yeah.
Anything is stressful enough to make you just flip out about it if you're on edge enough. And anything is available for your interpretation. So your choice to pull yourself out of that audience because you might be triggered by something is your choice, but don't go blaming the artist for presenting something that is evil or negative.
Yeah. I mean, and to think, if there was such a disclaimer at the beginning, what we would have missed out on. I mean,
right.
if there was a disclaimer on an Octoroon, Wilma Theater's production, we would have missed out on an experience, on a conversation, on an emotion. I mean, people were moved and excited by that production before it even opened. Yeah. And they couldn't stop talking about it when they had experienced it. And all of that's just sort of fueled, like, if you were on the fence about it for whatever reason, get off the fence. Go form your own opinion. Don't you want to form your own opinion?
Right.
Like, I hear this is a good show, or I hear this show's not good, or I want to know. Right. I want to know why people feel the way they feel. I want to go form my own opinion. Yeah. That's why, like, they've been experiencing it with movies. Like, the critics pan it, but the audience loves it. Yeah. It's like, okay, so that just says, just go see it. If you had an interest, if you were interested in it in any way, for whatever reason, if it sounded interesting to you, that is your justification.
Yeah, that is enough justification to go see it.
And the act of passing the parenting baton onto the producer, or the the company presenting the piece, is always an interesting thing. Somewhere, yeah, where they're always like, "Is this good for? Would this be good for children?" I don't know. Your children. I
don't know your children.
They're your children. Yeah, like, we get that in museums all the time. Like, is this great for? Would my child be okay here? I don't know. I mean, is your child rowdy?
Yeah. Is your child going to cause a problem? Are they going to touch stuff?
Yeah.
Are they going to jump on stage? Like, that's my concern.
Does your child have cash? Because, no. I mean, technically, if he's under 12, you can get him for free anyway. So, yes, please bring him. Yeah, so why... We've kind of answered it, and all my technology is telling us random things in here, if you heard that. You sort of answered it in various ways, but why this piece, and why now?
Why this piece is a lot less interesting than it should be. Why this piece is...
Because I want to, God.
Yeah. Why this piece is... Okay, so this Pulliam Buttonhole, the theater company in Jenkintown, was seeking a director that is a person of color to direct this piece. For perhaps self-obvious reasons. It was very good of them to seek out a director that is a person of color, because, you could just present a piece about slavery and have some, person who has no direct link to the African American voice in it direct it, and I'm sure they do a fine job, but they're not going to layer in the same information that a person of color is going to layer in during the directing process. So that was when I got involved. I met with the artistic director, Bridget, and I had a great conversation in a coffee shop in Jenkintown, and I was super excited about it. As soon as I read it, my wife said to me, "You're going to do this piece." And I'm like, "Okay, what? You've never said that to me about anything." She's like, "Yeah, but look at your face." And I'm like, "I don't know, it's just my face." And she's like, "No, you're more excited about this text than I've seen you excited about anything in your entire career. You need to really explore what this thing means to you.
It's calling you."
So, and why now? My God, every day there is something that shows now more than ever we need a piece like this. I know I've said multiple times it's a narrative about slavery. Beyond that, that's gonna, just that phrase, it's a narrative about slavery. Instantly, you have 40 to 60% of the people that just drop off and go, "Oh, whatever." It's a narrative about society, why we are where we are, why we're here today. Why gentrification happens, why gentrification is even a thing for people, why Trump is a thing to people, why are there shootings in communities across the entire nation of completely innocent people of color for very little to no justifiable reason, when the same percentage-wise, the same incidents don't happen to people of European descent. All of those things are spoken to with this narrative. The great thing about what Lynn Nottage did with these interviews, and she doesn't credit herself as a writer, she credits herself as sorry, I forget the term that she used. Adapter. She credits herself as an adapter, because every word that the player parts speak and every quote that the chorus speaks is a direct quote from period pieces and a direct quote from former slaves. And the brilliant thing that she did in adapting those quotes is she created a story arc that goes all the way from African capture, the roots of the slave trade, through slavery to the emancipation, and just drives this energy forward into today and beyond. That is such a positive energy and gives us reason, us being the whole American social community, a reason to look at this period not with disgust but with understanding of what it drives today and what we know today to be true. I don't know how to put it. I have a PR person for this show, Carrie Gorn, and she's a really good PR person, and the whole thing I said when I was hiring her was, I don't know how to put things in a short way. I don't know how to narrow my words down to, like, create that. everybody always says, "Oh, you should have an elevator pitch." You know, like there's no elevator pitch for this. It's so expansive, and it has so much layered into it that I don't know where to. I don't even know how to begin to narrow it.
Yeah. Neither do I. That's why I have a podcast. I could talk until we run out of batteries. What do you hope an audience will take away from this experience, from this production?
This is a complicated question for me. My primary hope is that an audience will see something in these narratives that they had never thought would apply to their life now. Excuse me. And apply it to their own life now. That they will really gain an understanding of their position in society now from hearing where our current culture comes from.
So, the production is One More River to Cross. It's a verbatim fugue. It's adapted by Lynn Nottage. Earlier I said notage. It's Lynn Nottage. The production will actually be in two places. It'll be in Jenkintown, starting May 12th. May 12th, 13th, 19th, and 20th. And then it will be downtown at the Latvian Society, May 26th through June 11th. And we'll have a link on the site for you to get tickets. It's onemorerivertocross.bpt.me. And this collection, I'm intrigued by it. I mean, how fortunate to have this collection all in one place, and under the adaptation of Lynn Nottage, to condense it down to the most impactful messages. I think it is definitely something that we should all want to experience.
Yeah, and I don't want to belabor the point, but as for appropriateness of audience, I really think that I'm sure every producer says, "Oh, everybody should see this."
Yeah.
But in this case, the words are more true than I could possibly communicate. Everybody should at least see it. If you need tickets and you can't afford them, I have so many discounts that I've created for this, not because I'm worried about ticket sales, but because I'm worried about people seeing it. We've been in negotiations with a publicist that works primarily with the African American community and disadvantaged communities across the city, and I'm trying even through them to narrow down a way to lower ticket prices even more for people who wouldn't normally come to theater just because our ticket prices are high. I mean, there's a reason our ticket prices are high. We have to pay our artists.
Yeah.
I'm not going to present a piece about slavery without paying everybody, but, but at the same time, it's something that people should see, at least experience it once for yourself. And if you think any reason that you think you wouldn't want to go see this, I can give you a reason that you should see it.
Yeah. If you listened all the way through this, that is a reason to go see this as well. James, it's been a pleasure chatting with you and, taking this sort of trip.
Thank you.
Through this process, talking about its relevance and, these elements that you've lived with all of this time and you and your team have worked so hard on to bring it to multiple stages. Did we miss anything? Is there anything else you want to add?
I don't know. I know a lot of industry folks listen to your podcast, so Industry Thursdays, maybe? Yeah, our Thursdays, the 25th, the 1st, and the 8th, 25th of May, 1st of June, 8th of June, are buy one, get one free for industry folks. And we have a pay what you can on the 11th of May for the Jenkintown show. Other than that, I think we've delved into this topic.
Are there talkback days?
There are talkback days. Let me pull that up. So and these are on the Brown Paper Tickets site. They're on a little calendar that I noted in there as well. There are talkbacks on... Oh, yes, post-show discussion, sorry. The opening weekend in Philadelphia, so the 25th, 26th, 27th, 28th, and the closing week in Philadelphia, the 8th, 9th, 10th, and 11th. And there's also... I know we didn't touch on it at all. One of the primary things I'm doing with this piece is trying to get Philadelphia area high school students to matinees for it. We're attempting to fully fiscally sponsor those matinees so it doesn't cost the students anything, including, like, normally, a production will provide free admittance, but we're looking to provide them lunch and bus transportation to and from their school as well.
Oh, wow.
So during the Philadelphia run, and there's a fundraiser for that on generosity.com, which feel free to post the link. That's all the information I can think of right at the moment.
All right. Well, go get your tickets. Get one for your friend. Be a part of the conversation as always. We have these conversations to engage you in a conversation, and come and experience one more river to cross, and bring a friend and have a conversation with them, or pick one of the dates where there is a post-show discussion and be a part of that conversation. But this is a production that you'll want to have on your calendar. James, thank you for being on Rep Radio. Thank you for sharing this, and thank you for putting in the work.
Thanks so much. I really appreciate it.
To bring this to stages with Pulley and Buttonhole Theater Company.
Yeah, thanks.
It's been a pleasure catching up with you. Thanks.
Thanks.
Rep Radio is inspired by our community and listeners like you. Our operation is a fiscally sponsored project of Fractured Atlas. Show your support by making a tax-deductible contribution at repradio.org/support. To join our team or communicate with us, drop us a line at repradio.org. Stay tuned. Rep Radio is on the air.